Okay, so as I said, I'm not going to have a long class today because I want to look at what you guys have so far. I need a little bit more time to do that and push people along that are not where they're needing to be. For those of you that did not attend yesterday's class, because I didn't start until 8, which is most of you did not, which is okay. I was not able to do it because of the storming and pushed the scheduling back on everything. I recorded that and uploaded it. So it's about an hour, a little more than an hour long. So you definitely, I think, Cargan and the other student, I forgot her name now, said yes, that was very helpful to watch that last one. What I basically did was I used Cargan as an example, and I said, well, let's take a look at what he's got going on. Got certain containers created, certain VMs created, making notes, has virtual min running, and then I also showed how to install on your container. And we started, hopefully, I don't know how far you got, Cargan. Did you try installing WordPress for virtual min on your container yet? Okay, that's okay. I'd like you to go ahead and start when you get some time to do that. WordPress, because that's the next kind of interesting thing, or one of the more common things that is required or requested, not necessarily WordPress, but some sort of authoring or content management tool. What's one of the most common things that, can you guys see my screen, by the way? What's one of the most common things that any company needs to provide to their customers? That should be a big hint right there. To their customers, or what kind of tool do they need in order to provide support to their customers? They need a CRM. Some sort of CRM, like Salesforce. There's a lot of CRMs that are software as a service, but a lot of organizations prefer to use their own in-house customer relationship managers, which is what that stands for, customer relations managers, so that they can customize it, put extra things into it. Every help desk uses a CRM for interaction with a customer to improve the experience. When you call Xfinity, for example, when you're having a problem, or Verizon or AT&T, although it's really hard to talk to anybody at AT&T these days, or the bank, they say, thank you for calling, please give me your account number or some identifying information, or sometimes if it's a good CRM, it will pull up your information based on the telephone number that you called in from, pre-populate the screen, and then they'll ask you a few validated questions. So CRM is a really popular application that's needed, and there are CRM modules, or I should say there are communication support modules that are available for a lot of these simple web authoring tools, and WordPress is a mostly consumer grade, but I know a lot of small companies and even larger companies that are using WordPress to quickly create a front end, a website for their customers, or for even for their employees to share information, to put an online store up, to create a customer relationship model, or to provide an area where customers can download files or read information and how-tos and guides on how to do certain things with respect to the products or the services that company provides. So I talked in the previous class about WordPress. So we are going to be installing WordPress on top of virtual min. So when you're Googling for it, you can go to wordpress.org. So, and that's what I had mentioned in the previous class, I want everybody to first go to wordpress.org. You don't need to do this right now. You can do this later. And read what WordPress is and why you would install WordPress. And you probably also want to Google for things like WordPress best practices, because there's when you set up a WordPress website, and the most commonly hacked websites are websites that were created with WordPress. So you need to make sure that you're following some safety practices, some good, some safe not safe web surfing, but safe web page creation by installing certain tools, certain additional plugins to your WordPress, which will prevent hackers from doing things such as, one of the things I want to have you guys install is a CAPTCHA. Anybody go to a website and you are asked for some information, and one of the questions somewhere on the page is to click a little box that says I'm not a robot, or prove that you're a human? Or sometimes you go to some of the older legacy pages and it asks you to perform a simple math calculation. Or it asks you to tell you how many frames in this photo have a car in them, or something silly like that. Those are all forms to try to prevent robots. There's like an older one there where you have to read a word or read a series of letters that are all in different fonts and maybe have a line through them and they're different colors. That's because we're trying to prevent robots, or bots, we just call them bots, from automatically surfing through the internet and trying to hack into WordPress websites by typing in random usernames and random passwords. Username of Bob and password 1234, for example. So we're going to employ some of these best practices like that. One thing that I thought I would talk about first, though, because this came up with Proxmox 8, and I still need to change that password. I just got to the school. I'm up at school right now. I just got here just before 2, just before my first class, and I did not have time to do this. But if you lose your root password, or you don't know the root password recovery of Proxmox is Debian, and it happens to be the version called Buster. I'm going to type in root password recovery Debian Buster. How to reset forgotten password in Debian 10. Now, if it's on the actual virtual environment or a bare metal machine, the only way you can recover the root password is from the console screen. You have to physically be in front of the computer, or you have to be connected into what's called the management console of the screen, which is essentially like being in front of the computer. I don't have any of these computers set up in management console mode. So I want everybody to try this, because you can try this on your virtual machines. So I want you to intentionally make a snapshot first, okay? Make a backup, make a snapshot, do something, and then I want you to intentionally mess up your password. Let me log into one of the servers. You don't have to intentionally mess it up. Just pretend like you can't remember the password, okay? Now, like I said, what I'm going to have to do from this Proxmox 8 is I have to reboot, stop the boot up process. Not go into the BIOS, just stop the boot up process. You'll notice that on all of these Linuxes that you're installing, there's a little screen that comes up first that says Proxmox, and then a little bit of text, and then it starts loading it. That's your boot up screen. And in Linux, just like in Windows and just like in Mac OS, there's usually a few second period where you can press a special combination of buttons to stop the boot up and add extra parameters or boot up in safe mode or boot an alternate OS. Does anybody have a PC in here that has two OSs on it? Like you have a Windows 7 and a Windows 10, or you have a Windows 10 and a Linux in a different partition. You can set up your laptops and your desktop computers that way to boot into one or the other. Some people do that. So you'll notice, by the way, maybe some of you are not happy about this, I changed the root password on every Proxmox. So nobody can any longer get into the Proxmox with the root password. You have to log in as your individual user. Only I can log in as root. And I did that in part because somebody changed the root password on one. I mean, it was a mistake. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. So, but I do want you to try this. So here's my Ubuntu 18. Now, in the case of a container, it's very easy to change the password because I can always go to my Proxmox 2 and enter it. But in the case of a VM, like this VM here, CentOS 7 VM, get a console to it. I don't even remember what the root password is on it. It's asking me to reboot this one. I just installed this, so I'll reboot it. Now watch this. When it reboots, you'll see somewhere this, press escape for boot menu. See that? I did it quickly. Right in the lower right hand corner, it said press escape for boot menu. You have a couple different options. By the way, if that little thing gets in your way, you can drag it down. If you do that, you have the possibility of booting from a USB stick or a CD drive or a recovery media. That's one way to do it. If you don't have recovery media, and I do, I still have the DVD attached. If I go to the options, if I go to the hardware of this VM, I still have that CentOS 7 minimal DVD virtually attached to this machine. So I could tell it, hey, I want you to boot off of that virtual media instead, even though I've loaded an OS onto the hard drive because I need to recover the password or something. So you could do that. You can boot off the virtual media. It might take you through a boot process again, but I mean an install process again, but if you go to install it, it might say, hey, I've found an OS already. It's already an OS installed. Are you sure you want to overwrite this OS, or do you need to recover the password? What is it you need to do? That's one way to do it. I don't want you to do it that way. I want you to do it assuming the boot media is no longer available. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to stop. I'm going to blow the doors off that. I'm just going to stop it in its tracks. I'm going to remove the DVD image from it. And the first thing we should probably do, like I said, is let's go take a snapshot. Whatever. Now I'm going to remove the DVD from it. Remove. It's gone. So no, I can't boot off of the DVD. Yes, I could re-add it back in, but let's pretend it's not an option. And we don't need it. For most Linuxes, you don't need it as long as you can get a console screen, which we can because these are virtual machines. We can get to the console here. Here's my console screen of that VM. Not running right now. I'm going to boot it up. Turn it on. Start. Boot. Not that screen, but this next screen. There you go. Press E. I know that was quick, and I had to do it quickly because if I didn't do it quickly, it would have continued to try to boot up. I pushed E because that if you on the previous screen, and this is CentOS 7, so let me go Google quickly. CentOS 7 root password reset. How to reset root password on CentOS. Let's try this one. I don't know if this is the best one. In the boot grub menu, that's the first menu that popped up. It says select the option to edit, which is E. So that's what that first menu looked like that I went past very quickly. And actually, I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and I can keep it from continuing by hitting a down arrow. So let me stop it and restart it. I'll restart it, start. This is after the escape key. There, now I've stopped it. Now, you actually have two choices here. And in some cases, you have 3 and 4, and you can actually install CentOS or install a Debian or Ubuntu and have multiple options. 5 different boot methods if you want, 10 different boot methods if you want. This is kind of like equivalent to Windows regular mode and Windows safe mode with networking. You can add those things. So you've got what's called this rescue mode, which you can go into. And what that does is that boots you into the OS without a password. And then you can make modifications. You don't necessarily, and that's like if a file got corrupt on the boot partition of your virtual machine. But we don't even have to do that. We're not going to use rescue mode, and also it's not always available, but usually we can press E to edit the selected item. So we want to actually edit this line. Grub, by the way, is basically the beginning program, the boot program, the boot file that gets read to say, hey, here's where I want you to read your initial programs from and start booting up. So let's go back to, let's put that aside. Let's not minimize, but let's put them side by side here. Let's do this side by side. In the boot grub menu, which is this, press the down up arrow a couple times so it stops. Otherwise, it's a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and it's gone. Select E to edit it. So you're going to get that screen there. E. These are the parameters. This is what it's actually trying to execute. It's loading some video up first, and then it's setting a couple of variables. Then it's inserting or installing some mods, some modules. MS-DOS, interesting, and then XFS, which is a way of reading the data off the hard drive. Here's where the root partition is supposed to be. It says, I want you to go down, what's the instruction? You go to line 16 of Linux and change the RO with RW, and it says boot SH. So it says, go down to the line that looks like that. So looking for, let's see, we're on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Maybe a little bit further down. Let's see. Yeah, it's this line right here. It's a big long line. It's actually scrolled off the screen. Whenever you see a backslash like that, by the way, in a file, that means that the backslash is the continuation character. It means I'm not done with this line. There's some more on it, but you don't have a big enough console to show it all. So from there to there is one whole command. So here's the actual, this is the actual command that boots up this kernel. We call it a kernel, VM Linux 3.1.0. Blah, blah, blah. So it wants us to change RO to RW. Let's see if I can figure this out. I'll try it out. So I'm going to change that O to W. I'm actually in an editor here. Space, init, initialize the system, sys, root, bin, sh, Now press Control X to start on single user mode. So let's see if that was correct. Now there's a little bit extra in this file. There's this crash kernel auto, which I don't see here. Oh yeah, it's here. It's just in a different spot. Let's try that. Let's try that and see if that works. Entering emergency mode, exit the shell to continue. Okay, so I don't know if that did it or not, because that seemed to boot up way too fast. Let's continue to follow the instructions. chroot sysroot. So let's type in chroot sysroot. Password root. Changing the root password. Let's change it to something that we know. It's not asking me for an old password. Supposedly changed. Now I need to apparently use the touch command. Now what touch does, by the way, is it simply updates the time and date, the modification time and date of this file. Not sure what that file does, but I'm just going to do what it tells me. Touch / oh, I see what it's doing. We're basically retiming and dating the entire operating system. Auto relabel. And that wants us to exit chroot, exit. Now it wants to reboot, and let's see if that will work. So I don't have to edit anything back because that was only a temporary edit. Temporarily edited the OS, the boot up. I didn't write anything into a file. The only thing I actually wrote into a file is the new root password. So I want you guys to try this on one of your VMs, not your container, but one of your VMs. Even if you don't have the LAMP stack installed or virtual mint installed, I want you to intentionally try to change your root password this way. Just pretend you lost it. Make a backup first. Make a snapshot first. Snapshot or backup, either one. If it does stop on that screen for a long time, did you see the little counter? You can always hit enter and it continues along. This may or may not be a GUI installation. I don't know. I gotta let it run, see what it does. Login, root, password. Great, I'm in. Once you're in, and you're pretty sure that that's working, you don't want that to happen again, make sure you add a user called yourself. Jake, I've already got a user called Jake there, so password Jake. I think I figured that, hang on. Okay, so now I've changed my user Jake, and I want to make sure that Jake is in the SU doers, and I talked about that in the previous class. I'm sorry, I forgot to turn that on vibrate. So that's what I'm going to do on the Proxmox in a few minutes here. I'm going to do the very same thing, but I have to physically go over to the. So I'm going to take down Proxmox 8, by the way. I think there's only one student on Proxmox 8, so just keep that in mind. It's going to be down for a few minutes. So what won't let you use sudo? Sudo. Are you trying to use sudo from Proxmox or from a VM? Because I don't think you need to do anything else. I could be wrong. I could be mistaken. What do you need to use sudo for in Proxmox? What are you trying to do in Proxmox? That you need to be the root user. Trying to use putty. Oh, you're trying to putty into Proxmox? So you should already be able to use PuTTY to get into Proxmox. Do I need to use the console from Proxmox? No, I'm just using that console. I prefer you guys to use PuTTY to get into Proxmox and use SSH. And you can, Proxmox already has SSH set up, so as long as you've got PuTTY installed, and as long as you added yourself as a username and not root, sorry, where'd my PuTTY go? Oh, I bet it's over on this other screen. Let me minimize some things. Bear with me a sec. There it is. Load that one. 192.168.10.200 on port 22 because I'm internal in the lab here. Save open. Login as Jake or your individual user. Oh, now the reason that's not working is I'm trying to log into Proxmox, not log into this virtual machine I created. Excuse me. Oh, you're trying to use the PCT command. Are you trying to use PCT to enter a? Okay, so why are you trying to enter? You can't use the PCT command on the container. The only place you use the PCT command is, here, let me log in. I see what you're trying to do. Let me change my password for Proxmox because I don't remember what it is. Okay, so I'm logging that you tried to use PCT enter something. Oh, I see it. It gave you a command not found. So I guess you can't use sudo PCT enter because it might give you an error, right? Password for Jake. No, it's letting me do that. So sudo PCT list. So 201, let's say I want to enter the container 201. PCT enter 201 is going to say, what? I don't understand that command because you have to use sudo PCT enter 201. Now you'll notice, by the way, it didn't ask me to type in the password the next time. Okay, now you don't use the PCT command from within a container just to get to the container. Okay, so let's finish talking about that. So I want everybody to try to go through a procedure where they have to recover the root password from a VM. Okay, so next thing, let's go ahead and take some of these questions that people are asking, because I think a lot of you are having the same issues. Do you want to do that? So you're getting a network error. Let's see. So Cargan, we're good. Okay, so let me look at Robert's issue here. Let's look at Robert's issue. Then we will look at Sarah's issue. So you keep getting a network error when you're trying to do that. Okay, so Robert, which container or VM, which server are you on, first of all? Assume that I don't know anything because I don't remember. Server 3, okay, so let me get to server 3. And I'm just going to do it, I'm going to just do it from the console here because it's easier. So yeah, it's 20.108.006. All right, and it is virtual machine 305 or container 305? Container 305? Okay, so I am logged in as the root on container 305, and you're, first of all, let's make sure that we have valid networking. Let's try pinging something like Google's public DNS. Can't ping it, okay? So that's your problem, Robert. Can't install anything if you don't have working networking. Let's take a look at what might be wrong with your networking. Come back to Proxmox here. Take a look at your network settings. Ethernet 0 static 192.168.20.101/24. Ah, you haven't put a gateway in. That was an easy one. What do you think? What are you supposed to put there, Robert? Do you have any idea what's supposed to be there, Robert? The gateway is always, in the case where you ever see a /24, and I know some of you don't know networking that well, but just remember gateway. You were to go look at your own computer's information. Let's just go look at this computer's information. I'm going to open up a command prompt here. You can do this on a Mac too. Actually, Macs, what I've been researching, Macs are actually based on BSD, which is a type of Linux. IP config tells me right here what your gateway is. So here's my, this is my PC, 192.168.1.156. Here's my gateway, 192.168.1.1. What's common with those two numbers? The first 3 octets are the same, and then this default gateway, the 4th number is a 1. Hint, hint. So let's go back here and let's just take a guess. I'm going to guess that if the first 3 numbers of the gateway are supposed to be the same as my IP address, it's probably supposed to be 192. Where's my one? 192.168.20.1. Okay. DNS. Probably don't need to change anything there. Now let's see if your networking works. Where'd it go? That's mine. That's that. There it is. Ta-da, now it works. Okay, so that's the issue with some people. They just don't have simple networking. And that's mostly because I haven't really talked much about networking, how networking operates. If you took my 4477 class, you would know that. So now, the next thing to do would be try pinging by name, because you're going to need DNS resolution to work. Ping google.com, that works. Now, if you try pinging something by name, it may not return a ping, but it will return a lookup. You try pinging on xyz.com, for example. Might not necessarily give us a ping response, but it did look up the IP address. That's good enough. We know that's working. Now at this point, Robert, I'm not going to continue, because at this point, that should work for you. Okay? Did you already do that in the downloads? Type in here. Type that in. Maybe it's there already. Okay, so I'm going to let you continue. Continue. I'm going to close that. Sarah, let's go to your issue. It's not letting me use Yum. Okay, can you be more specific on that? Which Proxmox are you on, Sarah?
When I try to download the lamp stack on my on the PuTTY, it's not letting me do the where is it?
Uh-oh, you need a 9-volt battery, sounds like.
The Yum install HTTPD.
Okay, which server are you on, Sarah? Can you remind me?
6.
Okay, so let me get over to 6. That's 30.200. Excuse me. Oops, must have fat fingered it. And which virtual machine or container are you trying to assign? Which one did you say, 601 or 602? Which one was it, Sarah?
601.
601, thank you. Okay, so let's check. Let's make sure you've got good networking installed. Okay, you've got the same problem. You're missing a gateway address. So I'm just going to put it in there for you. Just in the interest of time, 192.168.30.1. It's the same, by the way, as the Proxmox. You click on Proxmox and you look at its network information, that VMBR0, same thing. That's different because every node has to have a different IP address. That's the same. So that's another place you guys could look to see what your Proxmox's gateway is, and then make sure all your VMs and all your containers have the same gateway. So now I'm pretty sure that your issue is resolved. You can get a login there and try that out. I'll let you continue. All right, Rahul, what was your issue? When you log into PuTTY and sign in, you get this error. Could not chdir to directory home Rahul. All right, well, maybe it doesn't exist. Which server are you on, Rahul? Proxmox 4. Okay, let's take a look. These are easy questions for me. You guys got to come up with some harder ones, like changing passwords. That one made me drive all the way to school. 20.200, 8006. And it's number 401, so I'm going to just use the console on here to get to 401. Can you get a console also and log in there for me? Are you able to do that? Not SSH, you'll have to do console in order for me to, unless you want to just tell everybody your password. Is it in your notes?
I get a blank screen.
Hit enter. After you do console, hit enter a couple times. Do you see anything? See, it's something. It's asking for your name, but it's probably not your name. It's probably didn't you make a root user? This is a container. You probably made a root user called root, and whatever password you gave it when you set it up. Do you remember? There you go. Okay, so when you log into PuTTY and sign in, you get this error, could not change directory. So you're saying from here you can't CD space home Rahul. Let's just try to CD space home first. Home exists, that's good. Rahul doesn't exist. So are you doing this because you think that you've installed virtual min on this machine? Okay, so you're not going to be able to go to home Rahul because that doesn't exist yet. And that would only exist if you created a domain called rahul.com or rahul.net or something like that. So you can't do that. You're just getting a little bit ahead of yourself. Right now, it looks like you've got a fairly fresh system here. HTML. Let's see, have you done the LAMP stack part? Okay, I see test.php, and that was IP-add.
And
So it looks like you do have the LAMP stack installed. So if I went to 192.168.20.206, and I typed in test.php, I get a PHP screen. So you've got LAMP installed. That's good. So you've done that part. So you're just at the point now to where you need to now install Virtual Mint. You just need to follow those directions. You don't have a downloads directory yet. Oh, that's interesting. Udo. It looks like you started typing in sudo and you ended up with that. Get rid of that weird file before it screws you up. So you need to make a directory called downloads, mkdir, cd downloads, and then that's where you need to go do the wget and install Virtual Mint. So I'll let you continue. Okay. Anybody else? Who's next? Is anybody next? Are we good for now? You guys working? Okay, I'll tell you what then. I'm going to turn the recording off to finish for right now. I'll keep the Zoom meeting going. So that way you guys can ask me some questions if you want to while you're here. And I'll go reset the password on server 8, which means, again, I need to reboot it. So I'm going to go do that. And then I'll come back to my laptop here and see if anybody else has any more questions if you're further along on the next step. Okay. Is it better to do it on PuTTY or console? That's a good question. If you can't PuTTY into this machine here yet. Excuse me, not that machine. You can't PuTTY into the Rahul machine yet until you have allowed it. So, which server was that? It's that one there. Which flavor of Ubuntu is that? It just says Ubuntu here. I'm going to go look under resources here. Options. I'm trying to figure out what template you used it from. Oh, it's Ubuntu 20. Okay, you're going to have a problem because Ubuntu 20 you cannot install Virtual Mint on. It has to be Ubuntu, I believe, 18. Okay, so might as well just abandon that one. Start over with Ubuntu 18, first of all. Okay. And then once you get Ubuntu 18 installed, these containers and these VMs by default usually don't have PuTTY set up. You will need to go Google for, don't have SSH set up. How to set up SSHD, put SSHD on Ubuntu 18 or Debian 10 or CentOS 7 or whatever it is, and you will find, let's see, Linux size, they're pretty good, Linux config, they're good. How to enable it, and it will tell you specifically you've got to install this, and I showed this in a previous class, how to install the OpenSSH server, how to edit a file so that you can add a username and password, permit root, that kind of thing. Add your own username. So do that, follow those along. Like I said, I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now. And I'm going to pause the. Okay, I'm back. Anybody have any more issues I need to help you with? Ali, okay, I'll check my emails, Ali. I'll do that right now. I'll push pause again. There's 192.168.20.101 10,000. Work on the VPN. Yes, Robert, if you are VPN'd into it, you should be able to. If you're VPN'd into the local network in left. Give me just a couple minutes. I want to read these emails from Ali real quick. Okay, Ali, I looked at your stuff. I'm not sure exactly what you're asking. I have successfully been able to SSH into your container number 331. So, not sure what else you need to do on that. So, send me I sent you an email. Respond to that. Does 192.168.20.101 work on the VPN? Well, yeah, you have to go to, if you're on VPN connection right now, you should be able to go to https://. It should look like that, and that should work if you're on the VPN. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, I understand. No, that's going to work. That should work if you're on the VPN. Let's make sure that, let's see if it works locally. Maybe it's not working locally. Yeah, it's working locally for me. I can get to your webmin. Have you installed LAMP? And you need to be making notes, Ali. Let's see, I'm looking at container 331 and the summary. You have a little bit of notes in there just when it was created, but add some more notes to that. You need to install LAMP. You need to install virtual min on that container 331. You need to put in your notes there. I can't tell on container 331 what distribution it is, okay? Because you didn't name it anything like CentOS 8 or Debian 9-Ali. And then also you don't have it in the notes, so I need to see that. Yeah, you can call me a little bit later today. Send me an email. I'll be available after 6, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording, I think, and then upload this, what we've got. Were you able to, let's see, Robert, you cannot are you VPN'd into the lab, Robert, where you can get to 192.168.20.100? You can't VPN in at all? You never could get are you saying you can't get VPN to work, Robert? I see. So if you can't get VPN to work, how can you view that? I think what you'll have to do is see if you can use the other method of viewing the remote Windows machines. Did you try following those instructions? Accessing the EI Lab. Okay, and were you able to get to the, in other words, were you able to go to, let me share my screen here. If you're not using VPN, you should be able to get to HTTP 192.138.194.45:9080. And it may not work internally for me. Let me go external or something. Let me externally view something. Like my computer on my, let me slide it over here in case there's anything special on it that I don't want you to see. Slide that back over. Yeah, that should be working. All right, I'll have to double check that and see why that's not working. What was the other question? Sarah had a question. You can't get into your container with PCT. Okay, again, which machine were you on, Sarah? Which Proxmox? You're on team 6. Let's see if I'm still logged in. Oh, don't just see my email there. We can get rid of that. Okay, so how are you trying? And your container is 601. So if you can putty to Proxmox 6, then you should be able to use PCT to enter 601. So here's how you would do it. As a user on Proxmox, not as the root user, as the user Jake. So first of all, I'm just going to get a shell to it. Okay, so I'm a root user right now. Let me become a user like you, like Jake. See if one exists yet on this system. It does not. So let me add myself real quick. And then I need to add myself as a sudoer, and that's probably what I need to do for you, Sarah. So I see S. Durrani. I had a client with the last name of Durrani. He was a doctor. D-U-R-R-A-N-I, right? So I need to add you to the sudoers group. I need to really do this for everybody who has not already done it. That's what we need to do right there. We need to modify a user, so user mod minus a G for group, sudoers, S. Durrani. Oh, it's probably just called sudo. And then I'll add me while I'm here. And then I need to make sure that will work, so I will temporarily become me. And then I'll try to use sudo pct list. Sudo is command not found. Are you getting that command not found when you try sudo? Oh, I see. That's interesting. Sudo is not installed on Proxmox by default. I thought it was, excuse me. That's why you couldn't do it, Sarah. Didn't exist yet. Now it exists. Okay, now try it. Okay, so, well, wait a minute. Don't install LampStack on Proxmox. You have, okay, so right now, what you need to do is get a, how come you can't log into the Proxmox with a container? I mean, a console. You're trying to install the LampStack where? On 601? So you should just be able to go to Proxmox 6 here. I'm lost, hang on. There's Proxmox 6. You should be able to go here and open a console right there and log in. I don't know what you made the root password to that, but you should be able to log in there and install the LampStack there. I don't think you need to use PCT enter. Why can't you do it that way, Sarah? Oh, I see. You're trying to do it through PuTTY. Are you not able to PuTTY to your container? If you haven't set up SSH, then you can't. And if the networking's not, let's see how the net 192.168.30.220. So in other words, you tried to do this. New session 192.168.30.220. Oh yeah, I'm getting an error. All right, so yeah, your PuTTY, your SSH server does not seem to be running. So you'll have to figure out from your console mode why SSHD is not running. This is CentOS 7, so you want, what you want to Google for is setup SSHD. Excuse me. CentOS 7. I just spelled it wrong. And see what is broken, what is messed up. Follow those instructions, okay? Because now the PCT enter should work. All right, what was the next question, Rahul? If I created another container that is Ubuntu 18 because Ubuntu 20 doesn't allow Webmin to be installed, am I able to make myself a sudoer, or would I need root privileges to create my user? If you're a sudoer on, you want to make yourself a sudoer on that container, yeah, you should be able to do that. You say you do have it working. Okay. All right, good. Any other questions, or should I go ahead and end the recording and upload this now? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Stop my share.